Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome into episode 13 of Hawgs on the Hill, your go-to podcast for an in-depth dive into all things Arkansas Razorbacks. Join us as we dissect the victories, analyze the plays, and revel in the spirit of the Hawgs. As always, episode 13 is brought to you by Homefield. Step into the legacy of collegiate style with Homefield's premium vintage apparel. Embrace the spirit of your alma mater or even your favorite team with their meticulously crafted, comfortable, and stylish collections. Elevate your game day attire. Celebrate the rich history of college sports. Homefield, where tradition meets modern comfort in every stitch. And if you haven't checked out the new Platinum Arkansas box, you are missing out. They have some fantastic new gear that they just released with their Platinum boxes as they're going through and releasing those. You can use promo code Variety Sports and all caps to receive 15% off that order. Go check them out today. And as you will notice, we are joined by our guest, Austin Farmer, today. We'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself. How are you doing, Austin?
Hey guys. So like you said, my name's Austin. I'm the site expert for Razorbackers. It's been online for about a decade, but it's been down for a while, and I just took it over this April. So man, I'm glad to be on here with you guys. The first time I've got to be on a podcast in a while, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
And I was about to say, we're inching closer and closer day by day to the kickoff of this 2024 football season. The excitement continues to build. We saw press conferences by Petrino earlier in this week, press conference by Pittman earlier today, talking about the second scrimmage. And those two combined have a little bit of mixed feelings, where the kind of press conference from Petrino kind of had you in high hopes, the way he was talking about, some of the different guys, how much improved Taylor Green is, how much he's worked with receivers, how in the offseason he kind of had to tell them, don't go out and throw over the weekend every day. Don't overtrain yourselves. He kind of, mentioned how once he got on campus, got to see guys like Broden, Isaiah Satania, guys that he expects to have a big year. And especially he mentioned Armstrong could be a special kid this year in the SEC. So thoughts there.
Go ahead, Austin. You want to go? Okay. So yeah, no, I'm there with you. The thing I have about the whole negative practice they had, or bad practice they had today, was, man, you've had like 2 weeks of just nothing but praise. Like, you watch video after video, one-handed catches or great plays by the defense, and then you have one day, and then you see all the negative Nancy's come out, and they just like to pounce on that, So I'm not super worried, but it is a little bit concerning when you throw 8 interceptions in one practice. That's not where you want to be. And we don't really know who threw those. You don't know if it was Talon or if it was Malachi Singleton or whoever. But yeah, no, with Bob Petrino and talking about these receivers, this is what I've been talking about for a while now, because with Enos, I just don't feel like they were utilized correctly. I remember against Mississippi State, the announcers were just hammering him about how the routes were placed and how the timing was. It just didn't look set up right. There was one interception that I think was the only interception of the game for KJ, where there was 2 routes that came over the top and cut back in, and they were right next to each other, and allowed that safety to play both sides, play both players, and it ended up as a pick. So I feel like with a mind like Bobby Petrino, obviously it's going to be better, and is obviously going to pull out the attributes that we thought we were going to see with like Andrew Armstrong and Isaac Tesla and Tyrone Broden. And hopefully it's going to get Isaiah Centania into it too. Another guy, I forgot his name. The 29-year-old, the one who's as old as Monte Harrison. I'm hearing more and more on him, and he's giving me hope, because I also have 4 years of eligibility. Hint, Sam Pittman. You don't want me. I'm just kidding. I got bad knees, and I'm 6 foot tall, and no, I ain't gonna work as an offensive lineman in the SEC. But I could be your water boy if you want to pay me like $60,000 a year. I'll do that. But still, no, I hear a lot about him, and I'm kind of get excited to see what he does because he just like 2 years ago he was in an MLB, and I know training for the MLB isn't exactly training for like the NFL, but I mean he's still got the body that can work in something like this. He has the body that can take on the load that is going to happen this season. So I'm excited to see what he can do and the maturity that he will bring to the team. I think that might help in the locker room too. So especially since they've had problems in the past with it.
I think that's a great point. He brings a kind of a different perspective with maturity, similar to if you got a transfer that was, a fifth-year senior coming in with like a COVID year or something like that. It's like that, but just times two. Yeah. You get a lot of maturity out of that. And then to your point, this wide receiver unit has a lot of experience on it just from last season. Most of them are returning. Tesla, Andrew Armstrong, guys like that. But then a couple other names out there we hadn't even really thrown out a whole lot. Guys like Jaden Wilson could be poised for a breakout year. He's kind of been flying under the radar with not a lot of hype because there's a ton of other guys out there as well. But somebody like him, has some potential, played a decent amount the last couple of years. And then another name, Davian Dozier, who's highly touted as a wide receiver, has gotten some good accolades from spring ball and things. But there's a lot of depth in that wide receiver room, a lot of mouths to feed there. So I'm excited to see how Bobby Petrino, to your point, utilizes those guys, hopefully in a better fashion than what we saw last year. There were several games where it didn't seem like routes were ran correctly. So I don't know if that was an issue from coaching standpoint or an issue from players not knowing the playbook correctly. Plays not getting called in correctly by KJ. I mean, there's a lot of variables where those errors could have came from, but I'm hoping a lot of those errors and mental mistakes, that's something that anybody that watches the show, they know I harp on quite a bit, is the mental side of the game. Those are the things where we've got to, make a lot of improvements, minimize those errors. And I think that'll translate to better results, better routes ran, better communication between your quarterback and receivers. All those things kind of ties into that. But as far, I'll hit on the practices a little bit as well. I was reading the thing where I think Talon threw at least one of the interceptions. KJ Jackson had a couple, and then I'm assuming the rest of the backups had it between Malachi and potentially the
you got Boda and Ledbetter.
So I'm hoping that everybody got some reps and everybody had a couple of bad reps. I mean, that's not a bad thing. Definitely learn from failure and learn from mistakes. And so, to your point, everybody coming in and harping on, oh my gosh, is this what we're going to be expecting now? I mean, they showed a chink in the armor, maybe a little bit, but at the same time, these are the things that you can learn from without having to learn from them in a game time scenario that costs you a win or something like that. So, it's not a bad thing to have a bad practice from time to time. And then on the flip side of things too, this defense has seen you week in and week out. This defense knows the plays you run best. This defense understands the receivers probably better than any defense we're going to face all year long. Their tendencies, their tells, sometimes you can tell a lot off of a guy what route he's going to be running, just the way he's lined up and the way he's twitching at the line or things like that. So there's a lot of subtle things like that these defensive can pick up on and turn our offensive side of the ball into a bad practice.
Yeah.
That may not translate as much when you're in a game time situation. So the overreactions need to stop. I completely agree with that take for sure. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to have a rough practice every now and then and really see some of the areas you need to focus on and learn from.
Well, you hit on that. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I run one more point? Also, we gotta think about you're talking about the mental side. I know it's a scrimmage, but not every scrimmage is equal, right? So who knows? Bobby Petrino could have went up to Coach T. Will and said, "Hey, we're going to make it hard on plays here." Hey, I know that Talon's having problems with this read and this read. Let's or he's doing really well with. You guys still there?
Yeah.
We lost you for a second.
My computer has an airplane mode on it, and I just hit it. I did not know it had that. So I apologize. So anyway, I mean, he might be trying to push his quarterbacks too. So you don't exactly know what's going on. So I wouldn't chalk it up to. I mean, it's obviously not good, but he might go into the film room tomorrow and say, "Hey, this is what you did. This is why you're not making this read. And that all it is a learning experience. And like you said, it better to happen in practice than in a game. Right.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and that's one of those things that in that press conference with Petrino that he mentioned, he said going up against T. Will in that defense every day, a very good experienced defense, is that these guys are going to start catching on to some of the play calls, some of the reads, what they're calling, their check downs, things like that. So to your point, Austin, who says these guys aren't catching on? And like you said, Petrino going to be like, hey, challenge my guy on this, and I think one of the things that I heard Petrino say that I liked was he said Taylor wasn't shying away from challenging things or things that, maybe he was struggling with. He said his example was he had one play one read that he was really struggling with. And he told him, make a list of plays that you want to run tomorrow. And he said that one was top of the list. So he really wants to attack that and get better. And I think you've shown that with his mentality. I mean, even when we talked to him, he said, he just wants to come in and work hard and, show what he can do. And so I think that's a good sign there. But, to both of you guys' point, a bad practice isn't the worst thing in the world. It's going to happen. And especially look at this experienced defense we got. They're a very experienced defensive line, secondary. Now that linebacker room, there's been a lot of praise out of it, but they're going to be young and inexperienced except for, so those transfers that came in. So to say defense won the day, that's not a surprising thing to me at all.
Yeah, me either. And to his point, I mean, they're getting to where they know each other. So it's going to be off and on, one day it's going to be better offense. And I feel like as the season goes on, defense does better than offense through practice. Just my, personal experience in, high school, just watching it, play out through every single year after that through, college and heck, even, professional ball, it's just how it works. I mean, offense, whenever you go to play, what's going to happen. The defense has no idea. And then whenever you go through the motions every single time, they know your little quirks, they know your little tells, and then it just becomes just pretty much you're just going through the motions at that point. So yeah,
I think a lot of real quick before we move on, I think a lot of the examples in season, if you will, that make the defenses look better and better as seasons go on is there's just more film of offenses. Yeah. A lot of the times early season, especially with teams that have some new faces, you can catch some people by surprise because they don't necessarily know who to look out for, who to prepare for in a game that they're about to go up against. We see it time to time in the SEC, definitely across the country. Even in the NFL, you'll have a rookie come out and have, 5 or 6 phenomenal games to start out his rookie year. And then people start to kind of figure out, okay, this guy's he's really tended to run to his right and then, break free if he can get outside the pocket on the right. So let's try to force him left. And as soon as people start forcing him to his left, they start losing games. Or, that's a kind of a crazy example, but there's a lot of things like that happen. And that's why, you play a long season for all that to develop and why, defenses do win championships. I know it's a little bit less that way than it used to be, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Scoring wins championships too, but defense really makes or breaks a good team. You have to have a good offense, but if you have a good defense to go along with that, that's a championship level team. So I completely agree. And I think that's something that we're seeing. This defense has just seen this offense a lot, and they know some of those tendencies, and they're able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and so we'll see what happens. We still got a couple more weeks of practice before we open up season on August 29th down in Little Rock versus UAPB. We'll see. I'm confident that hopefully we can go into the season and, start things off the right way. And hopefully, like we've talked about this schedule, have hopefully a successful season. We're trying to be realistic here, but if all things kind of fall into place, this could be a decent season. If we get the offense from Petrino of old and, this defense keeps doing what it's done the past few years, and that's been improved each year as T. Will kind of implements his system, implements his players, things like that. So, there's a lot of room for a high ceiling, but also we could see just like last season that it could go very badly as well.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is that whenever he was here, he had such a different, room of players. So now I'm not saying that Niall Davis and them were bad, but Niall Davis, had a trouble with injuries a lot, and like Broderick Green and Ronnie Wingo, I just don't necessarily feel like they're the explosive type of backs that we have now. I think they're still great backs. It just feels different with like Jaquindon Jackson and like Rashad DeBinion.
Yeah.
DeBinion, man, I am one of the biggest DeBinion fans. I think last year he kind of took a step back, but it's sophomore slump, but still but I feel like he's going. Yeah, well, the offensive line too, yeah. But
I was about to say, last year's
even
not 100%
even
his
then,
fault.
not 100%, but you could see like even whenever he just didn't look like he had the eyes that he did the year before. But still, I feel like the running game will probably be a little bit more important than it was in the past. But still, I feel like you're going to see these running backs take passes out of the backfield and stuff like that. I feel like it'll be a little bit more balanced, and then you're going to have a running quarterback like you did with Lamar Jackson. So I feel like we'll probably need to look a little bit more towards like what Louisville looked like when Lamar was over there. But yeah, if he can get his formula right, that's what he does. He takes these players and he sees what he has, and then he makes a playbook out of it. I think in the I don't know if it was in this press conference or another one, but he talks about how he has this big playbook, and by the end of the season he has a few plays, and that's their identity, and that's what he's going to do. And whether it works out or not, whether we have the talent to hang on or not, that's remains to be seen. But I'm hopeful, right? I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit.
I was about to say, you kind of have to there. And like you just hit on, we'll dive more into these running backs here in a little bit, but yeah, I think, like you said, nothing against those running backs that he had back then, but that talent level just seems since then to now, it has just went up a whole new level, across the board with different positions and whatnot. But yeah. And so now we'll hop over to basketball. Not a lot of news here, as we're kind of in that little summer break that they get until they return end of the month, beginning of September, to start fall camp and practice as they get ready to ramp up for season. But as of earlier this week, basketball season tickets are officially sold out for the 4th straight season in a row. I'm not surprised here with all the excitement of Coach Cal coming in that season tickets are sold out once again. Just hate that I couldn't get my hands on any, but I think there's a lot to be excited for this season. One of those things, just per John Rothstein, Arkansas is one of 3 SEC schools with multiple impact freshmen on this roster. I mean, we've talked about that, Seth, you and I. We've talked with David about that. This team has the chance to be really talented, especially with, you got Boogie Flan, Carter Knox, Billy Richmond. These freshmen are going to be really good this year.
1,000%. I'm excited to watch them play. Excited to see how their skills translate to SEC competition, and then how they fit in with the experience and age that we've kind of got coming in with some of the transfers. And then obviously a guy like Brazil returning that brings a decent amount of SEC experience, a little bit of time at Arkansas, obviously. I think he's primed for a bounce back year. And then all these freshmen coming in, if you can hang on to one out of these 3 to come back next year and have another piece to help build next year's team around as well, because that's going to kind of be the method of the madness going forward. And I know John Calipari is the guy to keep that level of talent rolling in. But if you're able to hang on to 1 or 2 of these guys every year as you're getting them in, that's how you create that dynasty kind of type of talent.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know, man, I'm really high on Billy Richmond too. I like what he brings in. Every time I see anything come out of the social media team, he's always just balling. I feel like, I don't know, maybe Carter Knox could be that guy that you're talking about. I don't know how much he's going to play. I feel like he could be in the starting rotation, but I like him too, and I feel like if he stayed, you could build something off of him as well. Also, maybe one of the bigs, maybe Ivisic. Depending on how well he develops this year, he might stay another year. If Cal can get him to be a little bit more physical, I think that's going to help a lot. But yeah, no, I'm excited about him. I think they're also going to be a little bit better at the 3-ball. I kind of like John L. The transfer from FAU,
Nelly Davis.
Yeah,
He's gonna be awesome.
He's just a bucket, dude.
I was about to say when a guy shoots 50% from corner 3, you've got a shooter. If you can run plays, spot him up in the corner, drive and dish, that's a recipe for a lot of points right there.
He's more of a driver, but still, I think from what I'm hearing, I feel like he's doing a little bit better from beyond the arc too. So yeah, I'm hopeful for that. And then when you have a guy who's like 7'1" and can hit it from beyond, from the half court line, what you need, a 6'5" or 6'3" guy doing it, so I don't know. I'm excited.
A lot of potential.
Yeah, a lot of potential. Yeah. We'll see. We'll keep you guys updated as we get more information coming through. Once we guys get back from fall camp and start practicing and kind of, per what Cal said in his press conference, kind of start working on actual offense. Whereas, all this summer ball they worked on, developing themselves, individual kind of workouts. Yeah, a lot of drills. So we'll keep you guys updated. We're excited. There's a lot of excitement for basketball. Especially with last year not going the way everybody really thought it would, and then the whole fiasco with Must leaving everything. I think this was the reinvigoration we needed after kind of everybody, I guess, started losing their minds with, what are we going to do now? We just lost Must. Who are we going to go get? If you would have told me it was Cal, I would have told you you're crazy. But, that's today's day and age, and Coach Cal is the head coach of Arkansas basketball. So.
Yeah, I was one of those people. Sorry, I was going nuts. I was like, "What the heck is going on?" It's like the one good thing that's happening right now. It's just So, but then Hunter Yurchek just pulled a rabbit out of his hat and makes us all look dumb. So,
yeah,
it was a good feeling in a way to be that surprised.
Yeah, I've never been so happy to be wrong. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's one of those things, and so. Yeah, a lot of excitement with basketball, and we will jump over track and field. The Olympics just finished up. Team USA won the entire thing. Not surprised there with total medals. Was right up there with golds with China. But as far as we're concerned, Arkansas Razorbacks and alums in the Olympics had themselves a good showing out there. Between Arkansas Razorbacks and alumni, they won 7 medals at the Olympics: 3 gold, 2 silver, 2 bronze. You had Caleb Brown win gold in the 4x400 for Team USA. Chris Bailey, gold in the 4x400 for Team USA. Roger Stona, gold in discus. He is a student at University of Arkansas, but he competed for Team Jamaica. You had Wayne Pennock, silver in the long jump for Team Jamaica. Caleb Brown, silver in the mixed 4x400 for Team USA. Amber Anning got bronzed in the mixed 4x400 and the women's 4x400 for Team Great Britain. And then you have the pro group of pros that are somewhat associated to Arkansas up here in Northwest Arkansas, win 7 medals as well. You have Tara Davis Woodhall that got gold in long jump for Team USA. Ryan Krauser, gold in shot put for Team USA, who actually helps coach Arkansas track and field. You have Shamar Little, gold in the 4x400 for Team USA. Alexis Cockrell, gold in 4x400 for Team USA. Shamir Little with silver in the mixed 4x400. Anna Cockrell, silver in the 400-meter hurdles. And Brittany Brown with bronze in the 200. So a lot of medals being brought back to Arkansas by current Razorbacks, former Razorbacks, and pros that are in the Northwest Arkansas area.
Can't beat it, man. That's a heck of a showing. The Olympics was kind of an exciting one this year. There was a lot of big news stories that occurred at the Olympics with some world records being broken. The 4x400 mixed, Kaylen Brown's a part of that team that broke that world record. Was unfortunately not in the medal race itself, but still a cool story there. And then just a lot of really cool stories and tidbits. Katie Ledecky being dominant again. Just some athletes like that have just shown extreme dominance. Obviously, Team USA's basketball team getting gold as kind of the I don't know, retirement farewell, whatever you really want to call it for LeBron, Steph, and KD, most likely in their Olympic careers. So a lot of cool stories, but it's definitely cool to see Arkansas represent as well as they did. There was a story out there that as a state, if we were a country on our own, we were in the top 16, 15 range just as overall medals goes. So that's a good place to be just as a state alone.
Yeah, and we'll go back to Rohei Stona Gold. Is that how you say his name? No,
I
Stona.
believe so.
And then, yeah, I'm looking at the notes and Dash Gold. Anyway, I like the story that Sam Pittman talked about him because he went to Arkansas's pro day and he worked out and he's like, I want to play for the NFL, you know. And Coach Pittman's like, man, he just won gold in discus. You need to go out there and keep throwing that thing, you know. Which that's just a cool story that you have all these world-class athletes. I mean, I'm only like 30 minutes away from Fayetteville. So anytime I ever want to go watch the greatest athletes in our country, you know, perform or some of the greatest athletes in the world, all I have to do is go out to the track and field arena. I don't know what you call it, but just go out there and just watch them. I mean, they practice like every day. You don't have to go pay money to watch them each time. You just go out, sit in your car, and watch these guys do the work. You know, it's just amazing to have people like that so close that we can, you know, literally just go and watch them. Like Tara Davis, Woodall, they're kind of famous, right? Her and her husband, I can't remember his name, but he's in the Paralympics, and I'm pretty sure he run for Arkansas, and
Yes.
she went to Texas. Sorry. No, I do that with everybody who's from Texas. But she went to Texas. He went to Arkansas. So it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, you know, bad families and hate with each other, but they ended up being great. Right. Anyway, it's just cool to have someone like that represent the university and represent the state, even though she's not really from the state. I don't think she's from the state. And she didn't go to the University of Arkansas, but it's cool to have someone that loves Fayetteville and loves Arkansas the way they do and represent the state the way they do on a worldwide level like that, you know, and especially with the power of social media and everything, it's cool to see their story because they're a cute couple, you know, they're just awesome. I'm pretty sure my wife, who doesn't love sports at all, you know, keeps up with them on Instagram. So, you know,
so she's actually the coach or coaches at Kansas State as well.
Oh, so yeah, she's not too far away from here. Because they come down quite a bit, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think he trains a lot around here. I mean, they were even back here whenever she got back. They had a celebration at Rubio's down in Lowell.
Yeah, I saw that.
Ruby's, and you know, he surprised her with the big dinner and, you know, having her medal and having everybody come out. So, you know, like you said, that's great to see. And like you said, he'll be competing here in the Paralympics. So, you know, hopefully he has a good competition as well. But, you know, great things at these Olympics. And you can't forget, you know, the GOAT Simone Biles doing her thing with the gymnastics team that kind of just rocked it there, winning overall gold in the team gymnastics, several golds and bronzes in the individual medals. So, you know, really great showing at the Olympics, even though, you know, the, I guess, technically current Razorback now that, you know, they're getting to campus and starting school, Jocelyn didn't get to compete as she was just an alternate. You know, hopefully we will get to see, you know, what she can do maybe at the 28 Olympics. Hopefully she gets to come back and try to, you know, go for a roster spot then, if you will.
Yeah, you don't. This is not hog related or anything, but there's a bone I got to pick with people. Everyone who talks about the greatest athlete of all time, you know, you hear like Venus Williams or Serena Williams, you know, and then you hear like Tom Brady, you hear Michael Jordan, you hear Tiger Woods. I never hear Simone Biles. And I don't know about y'all, but she, to me, is probably the greatest athlete of all time. That woman she does incredible stuff. Like, did you see the graph where on her floor routine, she did this?
How high she gets?
She was higher than what's his name? Wembanyama. She cleared 7'4". Like, that is crazy.
I think they said at one point
she's only like
12 foot in the air. Yeah, she's like 4'8".
Yeah, that's insane. That's incredible.
Some of the vault routines she does that have basically been groundbreaking. It's pretty unreal. And I think another name you got to throw out there that obviously was famous for his Olympics was Michael Phelps. He does get some of the greatest athlete accolades from time to time, but probably not as much as he should, considering how dominant he was in the prime of his career. But anyways, enough about the Olympics.
I was about to say, on the Razorbacks track and field, though, we did pick up 2 new signees for the track and field team. You've got Rivaldo Marshall transferring in from Iowa. He was the 2024 NCAA Indoor 800-meter champion, the 2023 NJCAA Indoor 800-meter champion, and the 2022 NJCAA Outdoor 800-meter champion. So we've got some talent coming in to run the 800, and then you've got Scotty Vines coming in as a freshman. I believe he was the 2024 USA Track and Field Under-20 champion. He was at the 2024 Nike Nationals champion, 2024 Texas Relays. He did advance to the high jump final for the U.S. Olympic team trials. And a ironic fact that he's coming to Arkansas, he broke the Colorado high school record of 7.4 set in 1991 by, guess who, UA alum Matt Hemingway. So 2 really talented kids coming into this track and field program, like we were talking about before the show. One of the track capitals of the world. If you want to run track at a high level, you come to Arkansas, one of a few schools that, if you go out to, like you're mentioning, our track and field center, the number of for every championship we have, you put there's like a poster, like a beam that's put in the ground, and they have those all around the track and field center, and there's a lot of them. I think this year we won our 53rd national championship. So, I mean, that's a lot, and you got to love that success that Arkansas has.
Yeah, I think this is I can't remember. It's an ungodly number of triple crowns that the women's coaches won. Like, it's insane. It's pure about domination. What people think Alabama football was with Saban, times that by 5. That's what Arkansas track has been for the last half a decade, or half a 100 years, half a century, really.
Yeah,
half a century. That, man, I was
hard words, man.
Word.
Yeah, right, no worries.
Yeah,
but it's cool.
Yeah, you love to see it. And as we jump over to Arkansas soccer, Seth's favorite sport here that we talk about, last week on Sunday they had their last exhibition game where they took on Seminole State and took them down 9-0 or 9-0 if you're talking in soccer terms. You had goals scored by Kelsey Euler, Ava Tankersley, Lily Boydston, Katie Doyle, Zoe Susie scored 2, Cora Hare, and Macy Schultz as well. Arkansas was named preseason first place in the SEC, and they actually have their opening of regular season tonight versus John Brown that started at 7 o'clock. Last update I have, as of halftime, they were up 3-0. And they will have another match coming up next Thursday on the road at Michigan State and East Lansing. But you got to love the success that you're talking about, success the soccer teams had over the past, 5 to 6 years under Kobe Hale's direction. And they seem to not be slowing down at all.
It's our year. We'll see if that pans out. But this team's got a ton of potential. They reloaded where they need to, kept some very good players. Obviously, Tankersley, she's going to be a key piece for us, getting in the scoring metric here against Seminole State. I expect to read her name quite a bit.
You got to Zoe Susie back, too.
Yeah. I think Kelsey Euler, was she a transfer?
I want to say yes.
I think so, but she came in with a lot of hype. So going to be a good year. This team's got a ton of potential, and I think they're heading in the right direction to make it back on the NCAA tournament stage and hopefully get a little bit farther than we did last year.
Yeah, you gotta think so. Kobe Hale, as many times as he's been there, you got to feel like you got to get over the hump at some point. With us, being number one in the SEC, making it the past like 4 years, I think, to the SEC championship game and not winning. So hopefully we can break through that and, get the win there, hopefully. And update for you, Seth, Kelsey Euler actually transferred in from Gonzaga.
That's right. I thought she was a transfer, but I couldn't remember where from.
I was about to say she was all West Coast Conference honorable mention. She started all 18 games for them last season, had 18 shots with 13 on goal, and she had one lone goal of a season versus Idaho State with 3 assists. So, she's coming in. She is a senior this year, or classified as a senior. So, like you said, bringing in some talent. Hopefully, this year we can get over that hump, get that SEC championship, but also make a deep run in the soccer NCAA tournament.
Yeah, if they can just get past the Elite Eight, man, I'm pretty sure it's been an Elite Eight for the last 2 years, right?
It has been.
I think
that's
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't get to follow them a whole lot, usually because I'm dealing with football and other recruiting and stuff like that during that time. But my best friend is one of the biggest women's soccer fan that you'll ever see. He's actually one of the PA guys for the soccer games. So
that's cool.
So he gets, $50 and then a hot dog. He gets to watch a free soccer game. So he loves it. And I can't wait because I have a daughter who she just started kindergarten. So I'm trying to get her into sports. I'm trying to get her to be, sporty. So she already likes watching it on TV. So I'm hoping I can get her to go and enjoy watching that. And it's cool that you have someone like women's teams that are as good as the women's teams here on campus are. So
I was about to say, all of our women's teams have had an uptick. You look at what Courtney Deifel's done with the softball program, what Coach Weber's done with this gymnastics program. Volleyball, had a great run last year. It seems like all of those women's programs are really took a step to the next level and have been, doing really well.
Except
volleyball too. Oh, except basketball. Yeah.
Basketball, that's a sore one right there. But
all the others though doing good things on the right direction.
Yeah. So good things happening there. No really baseball news for you guys. Kind of now is when we're going to hit the dead period for baseball. It's going to be interesting to see when we get to kind of more of that fall ball, what guys look like, what some of these freshmen come in, how they perform, things like that. And, we'll keep you guys updated on that. But, now is the time that we're going to start talking running backs. But before we do, if you get a chance, go check out our lovely sponsor and partner, Core Scarlet Letter and Core Brewing. Arkansas's very own handcrafted spiked seltzer. They have their Core Brewing here in Springdale in Northwest Arkansas. So if you're in the area, check them out. They just released, like we talked about, their new triple berry vodka soda. Fantastic. Tastes great. Really cool place to hang out. So if you get the chance, go head out over there and check them out and tell them we sent you over. But it's time to talk running backs. And this is one of the better running back room as far as depth that Arkansas has had in a couple of years. In the past, last year we did have Rocky that unfortunately he was injured a lot of the season. But then you had Rashad Dominion last year that got a lot of carries. You had Isaiah Augusta. Unfortunately, he transferred out. You hate to see him go. He ended up going to play for Coach Prime at Colorado. But, I think we've got just another talented freshman that's an in-state kid that will easily make you not miss him as much. And, we'll just run through the list here real quick of the running backs on the roster before we start diving into details. So just starting on the roster from how it's listed online, you've got running back Braylon Russell, freshman, home state kid from Benton, 6'1", 253, four-star recruit. You've got Rashad Dominion, 5'10", 201, a junior, played in 10 games last season with 2 starts, 82 carries for 260 yards, 1 touchdown, 14 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown. You've got Rodney Hill, 5'10", 186. He is a redshirt sophomore that transferred in from Florida State, Florida A&M. 50 carries for 190 yards and 1 touchdown at Florida State last year, played in 12 games. You got Emmanuel Crawford, 5'10", 175. He's a redshirt freshman that redshirted last season. Jaquindon Jackson, 6'2", 233, the redshirt senior, transferring in from Utah, played in 12 games with 11 starts for Utah last season, led them in carries, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and 100-yard games with 3. 161 carries for 797 yards on the season with 4 touchdowns. Cade Fields, 6'1", 219, redshirt sophomore, transferred in from Arkansas Tech, played 2 games with no stats. Jezreel Batchert, 6'1", 216, redshirt sophomore, no stats from last season. Tyrell Reed Jr., 5'10", 211, sophomore, transferred in from Hutchinson Community College. Played in all 11 games for them, 132 carries for 833 yards and 13 touchdowns, had 4 100-yard games. And then you've got a fullback on the roster, Kyle Thompson, 6'3", 262, a redshirt sophomore. Played in 1 game last season, making 2 tackles. But as we kind of go back to the top of the list, the kind of main 3 guys you'll probably want to key in on this season is Braylon Russell, Jaquindon Jackson, and Rashad DeBinion are going to be your 3 guys getting a bulk of the carries, but you may see Rodney Hill, Tyrell Reed sprinkled in. We're probably going to see a lot of these guys, whether they come in at running back, some maybe return game, some spread out wide as wide receivers. There's a lot of depth on this roster that is very talented, and I'm excited to see what this run game develops into this season.
Yeah, no. So let's talk about Braylon Russell for a second, right? Because I know he might not be a top 2 right this year, but look at that size. 6'1", 253 pounds. As a freshman. I don't know if y'all remember this from when they played Florida Atlantic last year, but they had a offensive line, a guy on their offensive line, their right tackle, I think, who was like 6'3", 275 pounds. You basically have that as a running back for Arkansas. That's insane. That is huge. And in the spring game, the guy was a tank. I mean, I got to actually go and watch it from the press box, and you could hear just the hits from up here. He's just solid, and it's a thud, and it makes me glad I'm not a linebacker, for Arkansas's defense. So yeah, no, he's good, and he's deceptively fast because he's so big. He doesn't look like he's going to be fast, but he's got good speed. And as a freshman, his eyes aren't great. I feel like sometimes from the little I've seen him play, there's sometimes he'll miss a hole here or there, and he just won't exactly see where the right reads are. He'll be a little bit impatient, but that just comes with time. By game 6, I'm sure he's going to be an All-American, right?
Right. Well, and you got to remember, Sam Pittman also said that he has a stone cold stiff arm as well. So,
yeah, that's crazy. That'll be fun to watch. Guy that's like 250 pounds just come up. That's going to be fun. That's like, shoot, how heavy was what's his name? Henry from Alabama.
Oh, Derrick Henry. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was up there like 240, 250, I think.
Yeah, but he was also like 6'4", so
he was massive.
But still, I mean, that guy, that's a stiff arm you don't want to get in front of,
Yeah, Derrick Henry, 6'3", 247.
6'3", 247. And but yeah, no, I'm not saying he's going to be Derrick Henry or anything. Don't hold that on me. But still, he's just, I feel like he's going to be good, and I feel like he's a little bit lower than what his rating was from being recruited. So I'm excited to see him come and play for the Hawgs. But yeah, what about you? What do you think, Seth?
Same thing. He's been getting a lot of hype and media attention, just with kind of how I think he's got. I don't want to say skyrocketed up the depth chart, because I still think he is going to kind of be the number 3 back, if you will. But I think he's exceeded expectations for that position. And I think a lot of people can see the writing on the wall that, hey, this is a potential starter, a future starter in Dave Van Horn's own terminology from the baseball team. I don't have backups. I have future starters. And I think Braylon Russell really fits that category. It gets thrown around a lot and probably overused, but he is legitimately built different. He's built differently than a lot of guys that are coming out of high school. He really is. He's got, in my opinion, a head start on building the collegiate frame that you have to compete in SEC competition. You have to be sizable enough to take the brunt of a lot of these hits. I think that's why KJ had as much success as he did as our quarterback, even though he ran the ball as much as he did. He was a big guy that was hard to take down. There were several plays that KJ was able to extend. I know he was a quarterback, but he was able to extend them just because guys couldn't tackle him. He was a very hard guy to bring down, very strong, had a lot of lower body strength, a heavy guy that's hard to topple over. I mean, I think Braylon Russell has those kinds of attributes. And as a freshman, having those types of physical attributes, that you're ahead of the curve, especially if you can kind of develop the fine-tune things after that. Like you were saying, being able to hit the holes better, being able to have better running back vision. That's one of the most critical things. I think his hands will play a big part in his playing time in the future. Yeah, you got to be able to run the ball, but to succeed in college football nowadays, you have to have backs that can catch the ball from time to time as well. Screen passes, different types of routes out of the backfield, wheel routes, all those types of things. If he can succeed in all those areas of the game, he does have potential to be the next, maybe Heisman type player in our running backs room. I'm not going to say all the way back to like Darren McFadden, because I think we've had some in the past that could have been close if certain factors would have been different. Alex Collins, Jay Will, some guys like that. If certain things would have went a little bit differently in their careers, maybe you'd have had a Heisman year or something like that if they weren't splitting carries or things of that nature. There's been some great running backs come through Arkansas, but I think Braylon Russell really does have potential to be that next guy here in a year or two, maybe even this year. You never know.
Yeah. It helps when he squats 600 pounds in high school.
His weight room videos are insane.
I still feel like he's going to have to cut some weight, though. I mean, I made a big deal about being 253, but man, that's just that you got to think about longevity at that point.
Knees and
cartilage,
joints,
cartilage. Yeah, trust me, I'm almost 30, and I feel it every day. And I only played for up until high school. So these guys that are he's probably gonna go to the league. He's got to think about that going forward. He can still be that guy at 225 or 230 or heck, even 235.
I was about to say he could get faster if he drops some of that weight too.
Yeah. I mean, like look at Leonard Fournette. He was 6 foot tall, like 230, 225 pounds, something like that. I mean, he was just knocking guys over. That's kind of where I feel like he can get down to, and I think that's probably going to be his optimal playing weight.
I think that's true. Build a little bit more strength, but cut a few pounds, kind of maximize both of those facets. Like I said, though, he's coming in ahead of the curve, in my opinion, just from a physical standpoint. Can the rest of his game develop to be that next SEC, standout running back?
So it's so much easier to lose weight than it is to gain weight, especially when you're there trying to build muscle. So he's, like you said, ahead of the curve. He's already, like you said, he's squatting 600 pounds. He's already there, not there necessarily, but he's got the skills to do what he needs to do in the weight room. He just needs to, cut back just a little bit. And I think he'll be fine. I don't think it's going to be hard for him at all. So,
yeah. And the other guy you want to look at, that transferred in, that it's probably going to be if you had to say a number one guy, your number one guy is Jaquindon Jackson coming in from Utah. Had a great season. Utah had some injury issues with an ankle, but I think they said, over the spring and summer, he got that taken care of and should be good to go. Missed, I think, the first scrimmage, they say, with an ankle injury. But other than that, you're looking at a guy that brings a lot of experience. And they said, surprisingly, don't watch out for him in the backfield, coming out of the backfield, like you mentioned, catching those passes. He's a guy that, I think, with this combination we have, it's like we said it week in and week out. If the offensive line can figure it out, this could be a pretty good running game that the Razorbacks will have this year.
100%. We talked about, Braylon Russell probably needing to get down to that 230, 235 mark to get that little bit of speed. That's what Jaquindon Jackson has. He's got the size, but has the speed. He's that 6'2", 233. That's kind of like the happy medium, if you will, for running backs that can do it all. have enough speed to be able to be a threat in the open field and break runs off, but still be sizable enough to take those hits, lay some hits as well, punish those linebackers when they come into the hole with you, the Oklahoma drill, if you will, bulldoze some guys. I think Jaquindon Jackson does fit a lot of those categories. And I think he'll be a guy that comes in, can be a little bit of a leader back there, especially for some of these younger guys that we've got. Braylon Russell, for example, Rodney Hill's only a redshirt sophomore. So there's some guys that can really learn, I think, from a player like Jaquindon Jackson, just on some of the things that he does well, and then just some of the leadership attributes that he brings to the table.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great to have a guy that has been there through all that stuff. I mean, he's been to a couple of schools. He actually went to Texas to be a quarterback. So now he went to Utah, got put behind, what's his name? That crazy dude with the hair.
I know who you're talking about. That's returning for his, I think, 6th year after not coming back last year.
Yeah, their quarterback. Gosh dang, I forgot his name. I love him though. But he got put behind him, and he's a good quarterback. So he just, he adapted. He went and he found somewhere he could actually start without leaving the team. And he went to, he went and played running back, and he's great. I mean, the dude acts like he has a controller just in his body, and he can just hit the B button, and he loves to spin, man. That's his favorite thing to do. And he's not afraid to do it in traffic either. He doesn't care if there's, a linebacker coming at him full speed from the side. He's just going to, spin out of it. And I don't know. It's just crazy how he does that. Now, the thing about his hands, I love how he's kind of got a chip on his shoulder, like one of the thing that Trey Biddy brings up every single time he talks about him. Sorry about this cough, guys. But every single time he talks about him, he talks about how he has a chip on his shoulder. And it comes from this one interview that he did after the spring game. And it's about him catching a pass. And he's like, yeah, I don't know why everyone thinks it's, crazy that I catch passes. I used to be a quarterback. They catch it every single play. And it's just that mentality. That's almost like a defensive back mentality. You have to be a special person to play corner, right? You got to be that guy who just wants it all, and you think you're the best person on the team. And I think that Jaquindon Jackson kind of has that. He's just not necessarily as loud as corners are. Those guys like to talk. Jaquindon Jackson is a little bit more quiet, a little bit more to himself from everything I can see and everything I hear. But I feel like he has that mentality, that chip on his shoulder, he wants to show everybody he's the best. And I think that's going to be a great quality to have to go through this season, and something to show the guys under him, like you were talking about.
I think that's true. And I'll hit this real quick, but there's a play in NCAA college football 2025, whatever it's called. That is it's like the fake jet RB pass where you pass backwards to him. If you're playing with the current roster, he's the guy that it gets thrown to, and he throws the ball. With him being a previous quarterback, that play could make it legitimately into this year's playbook. I think there's a potential you could see some crazy pop passes and things like that with Jaquindon Jackson, just because he's got the ability to throw the ball a lot better.
Hey, it is a Petrino offense.
You never know what's going to happen, man. There's at least going to be probably 10 crazy plays, trick plays that we try throughout the year that you see it one time, it might work, it might not, I don't know, but you're going to see some funky stuff from here and there, and I wouldn't be surprised if that one makes it in.
Yeah. And then, the guy we haven't talked about yet, Rashad Davinian, not to leave him out in the cold per se, he's a guy that brings 2 years of experience, played a lot as a freshman with Rocket,
very good back.
Had to play a lot last year due to Rocket, missing a lot of the season with injury, unfortunately had to play behind the terrible offensive line. Like we've talked about all, offseason, how bad it was last year. So, 260 yards, you'd like to see more, yardage from him last season, but you can't blame him for, not having any room to run whenever you're getting handed the ball and you've got defenders on your left and right away. But, I think this year, like we said, if this offensive line can be improved, we have the chance to have a 1-2, possibly 1-2-3 punch here with these guys that we've talked about, not to mention these other guys that, could contribute as well. The Rodney Hills, the Tyrell Reeds, guys like that, Petrino's mentioned and Pittman's mentioned guys that he likes what he's seeing from them. So, but I think Rashad Dominion has the chance to be another guy. Like, you've got Jaquindon Jackson that seems to be more of that between the tackles, going to run more or less through you back, whereas Rashad Dominion is more of your speedy kind of agile, I'm a juke you out type of guy, similar to how Alex Collins was, more speedy, shifty type of guy. So, we've got a lot of options here, and I think a lot of diversity in their running back room as far as skill sets and how these guys play the game.
Yeah, and real quick, I think he's going to be kind of one of the 1-2-3 guys, but I do think Dominion is still getting underrated right now. I think he's got potential to be the starter over Jaquindon Jackson, depending on who understands Petrino's offense the most. I think their skill sets, their experience level, the speed, the ability to hit a hole correctly, those types of things, I think they're similar, and Dominion can catch the ball fairly well. So depending on how well the mistakes that they minimize, who is the best at pass blocking, chip blocking, things like that. Those are the small things that can actually determine who gets the majority of the snaps. It really could be a 50-50 split. Very similar to back when Jonathan Williams, Alex Collins, I think Jay Will was a junior, Alex Collins was a sophomore, something like that. And it was almost a 50-50 split between those guys. This is kind of how I feel about this offense right now. I'm not going to say anything like a Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, Hillis type split, but it could be kind of close. You know what I mean? So I've got high hopes, but I think people are sleeping on Dominion just a little bit, considering how good Jaquindon Jackson looked for Utah. I think Dominion could have looked just that good for Arkansas if the offensive line troubles weren't the way they were. I think that was a big contributing factor in the sophomore slump that he had, if we want to call it that. But a lot of it depends on the offensive line for all of these guys, for the quarterbacks, for the receivers, for everybody involved in the offense. The offensive line has to get better, and we've talked about it till we're blue in the face, but I'm going to say it again.
I was about to say, if you missed it, go check out Offensive Line Preview, where we really talked about this and got in depth about this.
So, about Rashad Dominion. Earlier, I kind of hinted about being a big fan of Rashad. So he just has this quickness and this ability to cut on a dime that I love. Like the guy can just change directions wherever you want to go.
He reminds me of Le'Veon Bell in the backfield sometimes.
Le'Veon Bell. Well, I'm going to throw it. Yeah. Well, yeah. I get you, because he has really like fast legs. You know what I'm talking about? He's not like a real long strider. They're just quick and they don't really stop. But what I think he could be is kind of like what Austin Eckler was for the Chargers. So you guys probably don't know this, but I'm a Chargers fan. Apparently, I'm just glutton for punishment, being a Hawg fan and a Chargers fan.
I kind of feel you on that. I'm a Dolphins fan, so I was there for several years. So I feel your pain on that one.
Oh, I know. Yeah. But now you got Tua and Tyreek Hill and all that stuff, so I don't want to hear it from you, man. No, I like Justin Herbert and what they're going to do with – I think Harbaugh is the savior. That's just me. But anyway, back to Austin Eckler. I think that they can really utilize him in the passing game outside out of the backfield. That and screens. I think he's got – we don't really know how great his hands are, but I don't think he's ever dropped a pass. I don't think I've ever seen him drop a pass. If so, it wasn't like big, it wasn't memorable. So I think that can be something with him. And then he can also play that change of pace back, right? You can have the big bruisers and Russell, and you can have Jackson, and then you can have that change of pace guy. And you don't know whether or not he's going to take it, inside zone, cut back and hit you for 25 yards, or hit you with a running back screen. You don't know what's going to happen whenever you get that in there. And so I think he plays really well into like the mind games that Petrino likes to play. So yeah, do that. And something like what do they call them? like cowboy go get 'em plays. I don't know. I think I've heard that where, it's like 4th and inches and they have like goal line formation and then they have one guy do a route, something like that, or something out of the backfield, to something to Rashad Binion. Also, that could be a great spot for Isaiah Satania, something that no one knows is
like a
coming.
wheel route out of the backfield.
Yeah, hit him with that Ronnie Ringo and against Alabama wheel route, that would be cool. But no, I think he can be a real key piece to the offense. Maybe not necessarily in bulk yardage or playing time, but in scheme and that the mental side of it, because you got to prepare for 2 different type of backs. That's hard. That's hard to do.
I think Rodney Hill has potential to kind of be another person that can fit that category as well. So, say DeBinion goes down with an injury, you've got somebody behind him that's got plenty of experience doing those similar type roles. A very, very speedy, shifty back that can kind of be that change of pace guy. Not necessarily the between the tackles bruiser, but can really be evasive and run routes well, catch the ball well. So overall, you look at this running back roster, it's got a lot going for it. There's a couple things to, wait to be seen on how well it shapes out. And the way the rotations go, the way the majority of the snaps go, if it is kind of a 50-50 split, if you've got different, personnel packages that require different players back there, are there times that you see 2, maybe 3 backs in the game at the same time?
Yeah.
We'll see. There's going to be some funky stuff happen.
I
I think this roster can allow that.
We mentioned it last week that Pacino is bringing back that I formation. So,
yep.
You could have 3 backs. You could have 3 tight ends. I mean, there's enough talent to just do pretty much whatever you want with this offense.
Tight end room is legit too, man. Ty Washington, Luke Haas, and you got a couple of up and comers, Varkees Gum, Shamar Easter, some guys in there that have yet to prove themselves, in my opinion, but have a lot of talent. There's if anywhere you look on this team, realistically, as far as skill positions goes, I think we have enough talent to really compete well with the SEC.
Yeah, there's no shortage of talent.
Yeah, no, not at all. How it shakes out on the field, we'll see. But I think the talent level on paper does compete well with even some of the upper echelon teams in the SEC. I think we're right there with them. It's just getting it all to come together.
I feel like the problem has always been the depth of talent. So that's more or less the problem with Arkansas. Now, like on the defensive line, I feel like that's probably the best depth they have is defensive line. They got a lot of guys. Some of them are unproven, especially on the ends, like Quincy Rhodes, and then you got freshman Collins and Henderson. But in the middle,
like we talked about too, you've got Junkaj that transferred in as well that played Division III ball, but can that translate to SEC caliber play?
I saw earlier today that there's a big position battle going on between him and Nico Davlier. Those 2 guys are really like going neck and neck at it, trying to get that last spot, if you will.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see Davier coming up because I've liked what he did. You know what's funny? I'm going to tell this little anecdotal story. So I wrote a post about, or I did like a preview or a prediction of how the lineup's going to be with the defensive line when I wrote for USA Today, and I put him behind. I put him in front of Junkaj, right? So I put him as the starter. But I saw this coming where there's going to be a battle between him and Junkaj. And I said that he's going to have to, show himself more than he has in the past to win this out, to keep him from coming up and taking the spot. And Nico Davier's dad, like, angry faced it on Facebook. And I was like, man, I wouldn't say anything bad. I really like the guy. Yeah, it is what it is. And I think he can, I think he's going to play a lot and I think he's going to do very well. And that competition between those two is going to make the team better, but I want to kind of go inside a little bit because I love what they have. And I know we're getting off topic a little bit, but I love those the interior linemen with Eric Gregory. I think he's one of the most underrated D tackles in the country. And then Cam Ball, which that man is hilarious. If you ever watch any of this stuff, he's a great personality. And then you got like Kiwi Rose and I forgot his name. He's a transfer. And
CR from BYU.
Yeah. And then you have Ian Jaffard, which he's like 380 pounds
huge,
and like 75% of it is muscle. Like, that's insane.
Well,
That's
and then
crazy.
you got to remember, you've got, I think we talked about defensive line last week. You've got I think freshman Ian Gefford. He's a big boy too.
Yeah,
that's a freshman.
That's who I was talking about.
That's who I was talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, one of the stories that Sam Pittman talked about whenever he did his recruiting is that he was doing handstands. And he was like 385 then. I'm like, I could not imagine that. Like, I'm not much smaller than what he is. I couldn't do that. My arms would break. That's insane. And so I feel like he's got, if he can get his skill up to where it is, I think he's going to be that great fifth guy. Because that's what you want. You want 1, 2, and then one more just so you can have this rotation, a 5-man rotation on the inside. So, yeah, I like what they got there. But anyway, depth-wise, yeah, that's where it is. That's the problem with Arkansas, and it kind of always has been, at least since the Petrino era, is just the depth just isn't great. It's they're either young or there's not a lot of talent behind them. So,
I think we're going in the right direction. We've talked about that a little bit. Like the wide receiver room feels deeper than it has in years. Where it's not just it's Treylon Burks and then maybe 1 or 2 other guys behind him. It's you actually have like 3 or 4 guys that really could be the number one. I think it's going to be Andrew Armstrong, but seriously, Tesla can make a run for it. I think Tyron Broden can make a run for it. Satania can make a run for it as the leading yardage receivers. I think when you get down as far as touchdowns go, it could change a little bit there. But then you got Luke Haas, tight end, same thing. I mean, he's a hybrid wide receiver in my opinion. He could lead the team in reception yards. So who knows?
Yeah, I was about saying you got to love the recruiting that T. Will's doing on the defensive side of the ball too. Some of those top recruits he's got in the past few weeks. 4-star defensive tackle, linebackers. The Colton Yarbo, the DN out of Oklahoma, number 1 player in Oklahoma for 26. Like he's really stepped up the recruiting game on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and the thing is, everybody's gonna hates the transfer portal when it takes players away, but the only reason why Sam Pittman has a job right now is because of the transfer portal, right? Because let's face it, whenever he came here, he was a placeholder, right? And then COVID hit, and then all this other stuff happened. But he really hit on the transfer portal for that 2021 season. But the other what he's done also is he's also built up that depth, right? But the thing is with that is that other SEC teams have also done that. So we have a much better depth than what we had with like Brett Bielema or Chad Morris. But you look at like Ole Miss, like it's crazy.
They've done the same thing.
Yeah, they're doing the same thing, but they're also getting those big guys. So I don't know. I'm hopeful for it, but I'm not like, I'm not going to.
It's called optimistic realism.
Yeah,
optimistic realism.
Optimistic realism. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
I was about to say my biggest thing with recruiting is we got to quit letting the number 1 in-state player leave the state.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are like, well, who cares? Because you can go just about anywhere. You can go to Texas and get guys that are just as good as that. Well, true. But like this year, you have what's his name? Let me pull up that real quick.
Well, you had Kearns that committed to LSU.
Kearns, yeah. And then there's another guy who just cracked like the top 30 for Rivals.
I was about to say there was a decommitment for an in-state recruit that was committed to Penn State, running back that decommitted from Penn State, and a lot of people are like, "Go get him, Bobby P. and Sam Pittman." So,
yeah, I think I don't know about them going out and doing much more recruiting. They're at 21 right now, so we'll have to see. But they could go and try and get him. It's kind of weird that he.
It's a weird time to be decommitting.
Yeah, it is. Unless he's going back home, that would make sense. Amarian Robinson, That's right. So
Yes.
for Rivals, he cracked like the top 30, right? I mean, he's gonna be a good back. I think it's Amari Ron. Yeah, he went to OU. Yeah, the kid that went to OU. So he's a 3-star according to 247. But you know that somewhere in between where he is in 247 and Rivals, that's usually where they are, right? But yeah, I mean, you lost on Kearns, you lost on Robinson, you lost on well, I don't think they were really going for
the
Daniel
receiver from last year too.
Anderson.
They went to Missouri.
Yeah,
Courtney Crutchfield.
Yeah, Crutchfield.
Yeah, that really hurt. And I'm just looking forward to watching Charlie Collins go and smash him one day, you know. They're cousins, so you know they've done it.
There's going to be some
so
blood there for sure.
Yeah. And who knows, you know, with this transfer portal and everything, he might be behind like I don't know who's behind Luther Burden. Shoot.
But it
Luther,
could be
what's his
on
name?
the depth chart, and he could decide to come back home.
Yeah, so he could get buried, especially with how they're recruiting, which is disgusting to come out of my mouth, hearing how good their Missouri is recruiting right now, especially with a guy that's from Arkansas. You know, Drink might be a nerd, but he's doing really good stuff right now.
You got to give him his credit because he has done a lot of things for Missouri.
Who knows? He might be up there and he might get his bag, and then he might be like, well, you know what? I miss home, and then come back down. So, you know, there's hope for it. There, you know, all these guys who are recruiting, like you hear Danny West talk about it on Trey Biddy's show. He used to like delete all these guys off his Twitter, but now he has to keep following them because you never know. They might be, you know, in the future coming back to Arkansas. So
that is true.
It's a different world for sure.
Yeah,
it is.
So as we get wrapped up here, you know, that's been our running back preview. You know, we've got only a couple left with a couple of weeks before the season. You know, we've got defensive backs and special teams that we'll cover next week, and then week after that, it's game time. So since the first game's on a Thursday night, we will probably adjust the time of the show for that week. We'll keep you guys updated on that. And before we get out of here, Austin, do you want to let everybody know where they can find your content at?
Yeah, so you can find us on Razorbackers.com, RAZORBACKERS.com. So you got to put that ERS at the end of it. You can find my Twitter. It's a funny name, the story behind it, and I'll tell it later, but it's Farmersaurus Rex on Twitter, okay? Also, awesome. Yeah, it's a good story. I'll tell you guys later. But so I also do Clemson stuff for Fansided. That's where Razorbackers is through. So if you guys ever, you know, get curious, you want to see what's going on in the ACC, go and look up RobinTheRock.com. Or you can go to Razorbackers and look at Fansided college teams at the top, and find it from there.
That's awesome, man. Thank you
follow
so much
us on
for coming
Facebook.
on the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I like coming and talking, and even though I'm coughing, it's cool to get back with people who are like-minded and, you know, talking about the Hogs and getting a break from, you know, my fingers going. So I am really glad to be on with you guys.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you jumping on. And before we get out of here, don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can find those. And thank you for listening to today's episode of Hogs on the Hill. We'll be back at you next week with our next position preview show.